This afternoon we're going to talk about and learn about the debt snowball and the emergency fund. On our time together last week, we looked at the beginning principles of seven steps, 7 baby steps to be able to establish, handle, or rein in our finances to gain control, and then to be able to project a way forward. So we really look at this. The journey that we are beginning is not everything at one time. Sometimes when you look at something new, it's just, you can be overwhelmed with the sense of, man, it's just so much. How do I get it done? So like imagine going to a house that everything is dirty, from like once you open the front door, everything is dirty and chaotic. It'd be overwhelming. It's like, you have to clean all this. So you walk into the front room, that's dirty. Walls are dirty, windows are dirty, it's clothes everywhere. Just a mess. Go into the kitchen, same thing. Go into the bathroom, same thing. You go into the bedroom, same thing. Go into the other bedroom, same thing. Go into the garage, it's just packed to the ceiling. You just want to throw up your hands. But you start not doing everything. If you start a little bit in the garage, I'm going to go over to the kitchen, work a little bit, and I'm going to go over to the bedroom and work a little bit. You will have a lot of work, but you really won't see many results. You'll see quicker results if you said, I'm going to start in the kitchen, or I'm going to start in the garage, I'm going to start in the bathroom, whatever that room is, and you focus your efforts on that area. You'll see results there, and objectively then, that will encourage you that I can do another room. The African proverb is, how do you eat a huge elephant? There's one bite at a time. And so that's what we're doing, just one bite at a time, not everything at once. Remember that with this, if in the financial area, if we're trying to clean up a mess, the mess usually didn't happen overnight. It's one step at a time. Like losing weight, exercising. I don't gain 20 pounds from, eating on one bag of chips, right? It's multiple bags of chips over a period of time. There's multiple X whatever it is over a period of time. And so if I'm trying to lose it, it's not going to be one day into the gym, 20 pounds is gone. If that's the case, then, sign me up one day a week, twice on Sundays. But that's not the case. It takes time, it takes effort, just one step at a time, and you start seeing. It doesn't go as quickly as we want. So we get on the scale, and we want to see like a 3-pound reduction, 5-pound drop-off. Not. It may be like, a pound. It may be half a pound. But as long as we're making direction in the right setting, that's what we're concerned about. So when we look at these steps, when we talk about a financial situation, wherever it is, then it's not going to change overnight. So just say to yourself, I didn't get here overnight. I'm not going to get out of this overnight. It took time to get in, and it's going to take time to get out. And that's usually true of every situation in life. It didn't get into it overnight, and I'm not going to get out of it overnight. Few are the occasions and the exceptions that something is just an overnight sensation that created it, and the reversal is true. It's usually a progression, a series of things. So I said that to say, then it will require of us consistency, stick-to-itiveness, if you want to say that, determination, perseverance, whatever adjective or verb you want to use to describe. Then that's the process of just, okay, I'm not in it for the short fix, I'm in it for the long haul. And so if we're looking to be able to get out overnight, that's not happening. But if we're looking at the long haul, that can happen. So that is for each one of us. So overnight, not going to happen, but a long haul, we can do this. Okay, I'm not going to lose 5 pounds overnight, but I can lose 5 pounds in a month and a half, 2 months, whatever the case may be. So when we talk about our finances, we talk about then building up that sinew, muscle. First step we talked about last week, just in a high overview, and which again we'll reiterate today. The first step was to save $1,000 in the baby emergency fund. Again, the emphasis there, baby. It's miniature, it's small. Its purpose is to be able to deal with small emergencies if they come up. Okay, and there's going to be some type of small emergency that's going to come up. And $1,000 will go a long way to be able to offset that. And again, I will stress that an emergency is, by definition, something that is not planned for. Okay, something I was not anticipating, something I was not expecting. So there are some things that then will qualify for an emergency, and some things that certainly would not qualify for an emergency. Number two, we'll talk about, and today more in detail, of paying off all our debt, consumer debt that is, except for a house. So if you're buying a house or bought a house, in a house, et cetera, we're not talking about paying off the house, but paying off all consumer debt. So that consumer debt, i.e. would be my credit card, would be Macy's, would be Nordstrom's, TJ Maxx, Costco, Sam's, whatever, whoever, paying all those guys out. How to do it, how to be able to walk through that process. Then number three, once that's all done, we'll come back to that emergency fund. We talked about it as a baby emergency fund in step one, and it was just that, it was a baby. Now it's gotten bigger, so we'll be able to have 3 to 6 months of expenses in a fully funded emergency account. And we'll talk about this today. So today we're looking at steps 2 and 3 in detail, but these are the steps just in a high overview. Coming up next, we'll deal with step 4, which will be investing 15% of your household income into retirement. Because guess what? You're going to retire one day. You're not going to work every day until you die. There's going to be a point where you say, I've had enough. I just want to go sit on the beach and drink some virgin margaritas and have the sand under my toes and not have to work anymore. So we have to plan for that because it's not going to be, an overnight thing. We have to plan for that to be able to make that happen. Step 5, saving for your children's college. So if you don't have any kids, your kids are past that age or whatever, not applicable, then scratch it off. Don't have to worry about step 5. But if you do, then we'll talk about step 5, how to be able to plan for and save for college funds, scholarships, grants, all those different types of things. Notice it didn't say the word loan. Objective is, we're trying to be able to do it without incurring expenses. If you've seen in the news, one of the biggest things that has been going back and forth, especially since the pandemic, has been the ability to be able to suspend or to forgive student loans. Okay, so student loans, twofold. One, if it's written by the federal government, that's not bankruptable. You can't bankrupt it. You can't declare bankruptcy on that. If it's a private if it's a private firm, then you would be able to. But you've heard in the news a lot about that. And so with the pandemic, that payments were suspended. Now, the thing about payments being suspended is that the payment is suspended, but the interest is not. So what kills you in payments is the interest. It's like you borrow $300,000 for a house, in 30 years, you look on the amortization schedule, say, hey, you borrowed $300,000, you're going to pay us back $400,000 in interest. Just making up a number, okay? But it'd be something like that. It'd be like $300,000 or $400,000. If I got a car and say, okay, your car is $30,000. When you pay it back with interest, it's going to be, $55,000. Why am I paying you, $25,000? Because I borrowed your money, right? So you lent it out. I'm not mad at the bank for lending it. That's what they're in business to be able to lend. But what if I were paying myself back that money, though? What if instead of me paying them the $25,000 for 5 years or 6 years, whatever the case is, what if that was going to me? And at the end of that 5 years, I have $25,000 set aside. Student loans, though, that is one of the biggest growing areas. That area has quadrupled in size. It's over $1 trillion. So you hear a lot of people today asking for relief. And we'll talk a little bit more about this in the future. But people are lining up asking for relief. And I want to emphasize lesson number 1 in economics, there is no such thing as a free lunch. And so there are some stipulations that may be afforded, and this is being worked out right now. President Biden had wanted it to be done, and some states had said, well, if you grant credit or if you waive off their debt, then we're going to tax that amount because that's hurting businesses that we were relying on for income, that you're now wiping that debt clean. And so right now it is being litigated and so forth, but we'll get to that how to be able to plan for it because, of course, college is going to go up year by year in anticipation and preparation for it. But we'll look at that when we get there. Step 6, being able to pay off your home early. So we talked about that. We're not dealing with it in baby step 2, but in baby step 6, being able to pay off your home early. And so if you imagine then, if you didn't owe any bills, when I say owing bills, talking about like creditors, and you didn't have to pay out anyone, what would your life look like? What would you want to do? How might your vision of giving look? Looking and seeing a situation, a ministry, a fund, a family, even your own situation. How would that look differently tomorrow than it does today? And that becomes like your vision board as such. Hey, what do I want to do? I want to change it. The only one's going to change it is you. No one is able to change the situation. You have to be the one that decides, I'm changing this. By the grace of God, this is how I'm going to do it. So here are the steps. Then number 7, the last one, is to be able to build wealth and to give. There are only 3 things you can do with money. You can spend it, you can save it, and you can give it. And we want to do all 3 of those. To build, to save, and to give. Today we're looking at step 2 and step 3. Today is step 2 and step 3. So there are 2 methods to tackling debt. And I will compare both of these. One is the snowball method, it's called. And so we're going to look at the debt snowball. The other one is the avalanche method. And the difference between the 2 is succinctly this, okay? So you probably heard of the snowball. Snowball is you take your debts and you simply, you look at each one. So, grab all of them, right? So if it's 15, all the doctor's bill, I have a credit card, a gas card, a department store card, have a personal loan, whatever it is. So let's just say it's 10 debts that I have. In the debt snowball, the objective is to take those 10 debts and to list them smallest to largest, with the intent that I'm going to pay minimum payments on all of them, but the smallest one, I'm going to pay extra payments. So when I say extra payments, let's say the smallest one is $1,000 in terms of like the size. The next largest debt is $1,500. The next debt up is $2,000 and $2,500. At $500 increments, you get the idea. In that scenario, I'm taking the smallest one at $1,000, and maybe my monthly payment is $100. And maybe I'm paying the next one up at $1,500 that I owe. Maybe I'm paying them $130 a month. And then I have another one that's $2,000, so maybe I'm paying them $160 a month. You get the idea. In the debt snowball, what I'm doing is I'm paying everybody the minimum payments, and then whatever extra money I have, I'm applying it toward that small debt, the smallest one that was $1,000. So next month, instead of them getting $130, maybe I found another $600 that I scraped together by cutting some things down or cutting things out. So next month they get $730, right? Meaning that I have a balance due of $270, correct? Everybody else gets the minimum payment. And then the following month, I pay them now the $270, so that's paid off. So the following month, everybody still has a minimum payments. I move up to the next one in line, just kind of, like a boxing match. Boxed him down, now I'm to the next one. So now I'm at the next one, and now they were getting, say, $150 a month, but because I'm not paying that first one anymore, I'm giving them $150 plus what was going to the first one. Does that make sense? Okay, that's the snowball effect. So when you're building a snowball, is when you're out, you take a little bit of snow, small amount, and you compact it together, and you put in more snow, compact it, and put in more snow, compact it, and you roll, and you have a really big snowball. That's the snowball effect. So if you understand that, just give an affirmation so I can make sure that you're there. If everyone understand the snowball, that's the snowball effect. You put all the debts in order, again, recapping, list them all out, and you pay the minimum payments on everything, but the smallest one is the one you throw everything you have at for money. Okay, whatever money I have, I'm throwing at this. And then once that is done, you move to this next one. Once that one is done, I move to the next one. So that by the time I get down to the 10th one, instead of me having, paying $180 a month, I might have $600 a month I'm able to put toward it, okay? Because I've built up all that going down the road. I picked up steam. The other one is the avalanche. On this one, your focus is on, again, have all of them identified, all of my debts. This one I focus in off of what is the highest interest amount. So if I have 4 credit cards, and one is 25%, one is 20%, one is 18%, and one is 10%, I pay the one off that is 20% first, the higher interest rate. And then I move to the next one at 18, and then 16, and 10%. That's called the avalanche. In theory, they both work the same way because the assumption is I'm not adding more debt to it, right? You can't get out of debt and still continue to go in debt. Okay? So I'm not paying it off to go charge it back up again. That's the point of having that emergency fund. So I'm making a deal. I'm not going back. I'm through with this way. I'm not going back there. So in this, I do the same process. Extra payments I put toward the one with the largest interest rate and then keep going categorically to the smaller one. Okay, that's called the avalanche. It's like the avalanche effect. Again, taking the largest one with the debt interest rate and paying it down. So one is based off of the dollar amount owed. The other one is based off of the interest rate that is due. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, now between the two, how many of you think the snowball is more effective, and how many of you think the avalanche is more effective? So by the snowball, how many think the snowball is more effective? How many think the avalanche is more effective? No takers. How many think the snowball saves you more money? How many think the avalanche saves more money? I dropped out. Some of my votes dropped. I'm not sure what happened, so let me repeat that again. All right, if you just put it out. So let's say your debt the total debt is the same, agreed? Yeah. Like if I owe $10,000, whether I'd use the snowball or the avalanche, I still owe $10,000, right? Okay, that doesn't change. The only thing changes is my method of payment, right? Yeah. And so on the snowball, I'm paying the smallest creditor first, and then moving to the largest one last. In the avalanche, it's sort of the inverse. I'm paying the largest interest rate first and moving to the smallest interest rate. So my question again, in terms of overall payment, I took out, it's a total of $10,000 that I owe in the avalanche, I owe in the snowball. We'll just say it's 5 creditors with varied interest rates. I'm paying both of them off. Which one will I pay off first? How many say if I use the snowball, they get paid off first? How many say if I use the avalanche, it gets paid off first? All right? One more time. Who would be paid off quicker? Using the snowball amount method or using the avalanche method? Avalanche. Who's going to be paid off quicker? It's the avalanche. Okay? The avalanche is going to be paid off quicker. And then over time, because again, remember, if you look at something and say, well, look, it's $10,000. Let's keep it simple. If it's $10,000 and I owe 10% every year, right? At the end of the first year, how much interest have I paid? If it's $10,000, $1,000, okay? So you look at that, that's just like straight math, 10% and so forth, the interest is there. If the next year came and I again took half a year now maybe to pay, then it was like $5,000 left. Then, okay, I'm going to pay another $500, right? Okay, so that's what I'm looking at there. So mathematically, the avalanche is going to pay off quicker. You'll be out of debt quicker following the avalanche method because you're paying the highest interest rate. But guess what? Which one do you think people do better on? Snowball. People do better on the snowball. So Harvard did a study. And what they found out in their study is that the snowball actually works better. But in terms of math, here's an example for you to see. So we're going to take a husband and wife, Joe and Susie, and they have the following debts that amount to $54,000. A doctor bill of $500, a car loan of $800, another car loan of $15,000, a credit card of $9,000, a student loan of $20,000. A Home Depot credit card of $1,500. You can see the interest rate is 0% all the way to 13.5%, and the appropriate monthly payments that are listed accordingly. In short, together they've decided they can pay $1,000 a month towards their debt payments, although they owe $705 in terms of a monthly obligation. Joe wants to use the avalanche method, paying the highest interest rate first, but Susie wants to use the debt snowball to pay the lowest balance first. In this scenario, Joe's avalanche process, the couple will be debt-free after 5 years and 4 months, and they'll pay $8,300 in interest. If they followed Susie's method, the snowball, they'll be debt-free after 5 years and 5 months and will pay $9,300 or $9,400 in interest. The difference is 1 month and $1,000 is what we're talking about. So you say, well, what's the big deal then? Why did I even bother to share that? Because that's negligible, right? 1 month, $1,000, same, right? It's almost like 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. So what's the whole point? Well, the point is the psychology. The point is the psychology. This is not a math exercise. It's really a process of changing the mindset. If interest rate is the solution, we wouldn't have borrowed money at 25% to begin with. So we're just from an academic standpoint, yeah, you would say go with the one that's the higher interest rate, pay that off. But it's not a math number. It's got to be psychological. It's got to deal with the emotions. It's got to deal with the spirit. And so what the study then from Harvard found is that, in short, that the snowball method is the best method. Why? Because people they intend to stick to it. So imagine this scenario then. You're 30 pounds overweight, 20 pounds overweight, 10, whatever that number is. Or may not even be overweight. It's just you like look in the mirror and say, you know what, I want to lose whatever the weight is, right? I like to use exercise because that's kind of where my little thing right now. So bear with me. If you go to the gym and you work out for 2 weeks and you get on the scale and you lost 2 pounds, or you go to the gym and you worked out for 2 weeks and you've lost 0 pounds, which program are you going to stick with? 2 weeks, 2 pounds, right? Yeah. You're going to, maybe it's not as fast as you want, but you're like, hey, I see something. So the problem with the avalanche is, if you're tackling a bill that's $10,000, as an example, it looks like you're not making any headway. And that's the psychology behind it. So you may put in $1,000 to pay toward it, and now that 10 is 9. That's a different feeling from having a debt that was 500 and the next one 1,000, and I pay 1,000, I paid off the 500, and I'm halfway done with the second one. You see the psychology, behind it? Okay, I paid off one, I'm halfway done with another. Versus, I just made a little dent in that one, and I still got a long way to go. It's like a little win in your favor. I drank the smoothie. I drank the kale juice. I skipped dinner. I had a salad. I got on the scale. It's a little lighter. All right, I think I may do it one more day. So the process mentally is we're just trying to get up the win column. We're trying to get some easy wins in the process. Okay, does that make sense? So we're trying to win with it. That's the process. Now, in the analogies that we look at, we're looking at then a different mindset. So we have to change our mindset in this. So we're going to look at a new results to bring about new mindset because we want a different outcome. If we want the same outcome of what we've been doing, then we can keep doing the same thing. But if we want a different outcome, then we have to have a different mindset that is there. And so part of this mindset that I want to share with us is eliminating the process of saying, well, I'm too old. Eliminating the process of saying, it won't work for me. Eliminating the process of saying that, oh, this is just a way of life. Some people say, well, you're going to always owe somebody something. You heard that before? You're always going to be in debt to owe somebody something. You might choose that way, and that's going to be your reality. But a different mindset. So a couple of people I looked at 6 people real quick. You might recognize some of these folks. This is Martha Stewart. On this it says that she didn't find any success until age 41 when she published her first cookbook. You may not recognize her, but it was Vera Wang. She was a figure skater and journalist before she entered the fashion industry at age 40. And of course today, you probably may own some of her articles. This is an older gentleman. You may not recognize him, but I can guarantee you probably shopped in one of his stores over the last week. That's Sam Walton, a.k.a. Walmart Sam's Club. He started his first program, his first store after the age of 44. Now, you may not have been to this guy recently because of some dietary changes. And if we're trying to get in better shape, you probably won't be going there. But a lot of people are going there. In fact, you see the golden arches there. His name was Ray Kroc, and he had spent his career as a milkshake device salesperson before buying McDonald's at age 52. And of course, you know the rest of the story there. And then you may recognize him, at least for those who are in the States, particularly, you grew up with some KFC, finger looking good. And he didn't start the chicken business until 1952 when he was 62 years of age. And then this lady you may not know, but she's called Grandma Moses. That's Susanna Mary Robertson Moses, better known as Grandma Moses, and she began painting, her prolific painting career at age 78. I picked those out because some people say, well, you're young, yeah, you can do it. But I picked those out because I want you to understand that as long as you are breathing, as long as you're sucking air, then you can do something about your present situation and your future. Now, we look at these folks, and I put the highlight there, but we don't talk about the story of all the failures that they went through to be able to get there. How many times did the colonel try to deep fry the chicken before he got the right texture? Before he got the 13 herbs and spices together. Think about it. You try with the, your tofu and your seitan, and you're like, okay, that didn't work. And you got the recipe, right? And you're going back and tweaking it and so forth, but you starting absolutely from scratch, trying to create and so forth. But they had, a goal. They had a passion. They had a mission. An age. They didn't look in the mirror and say, well, I can't do this. Now, you're going to have a lot of detractors that will say, well, you're too old for that. Why even try? Just live out the rest of your days and so forth. But that is fine if you want mediocrity. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people who just want to be average, and there's nothing wrong with that. If that's what they want. But if you want beyond mediocrity, then you have to push yourself to a place that maybe you didn't think that you could go, but a place that God can carry you. So your mindset, then you have to evaluate, to change your mindset in the process. And so part of the mindset that we're looking at in this class is, number one, debt is not evil. Debt is not a sin. Okay? So I don't want you to leave out saying that debt is a sin, because it's not. I want you to leave out saying to be in debt you're a sinner, because you're not. I want you to leave out saying, well, being in debt is unfaithfulness to God. Nothing of the sort. Now, the Bible talks about debt, but in the process of talking about it, we don't see debt being something that is favorable or that's a good choice. It's not a good tool to have. Okay? So if you leave understanding that, that's fine. But don't leave out thinking that, if I had debt or have debt, it's a sin. No. It's not a heaven or hell situation. No one's going to be excluded from the kingdom because they, you imagine you go to the pearly gates, and Gabriel's not going to say, what is your credit score? 720 and above, you get in. 720 and above, you go to the hot place. He's not going to say how much money is in your bank account. Not going to say, do you owe anybody any money? Not going to say, how much do you owe anyone any money? None of those things, okay? So it is not a concept. But the scriptures teach us, though, of good choices and better choices, really, is what we're looking at. So the mindset then that I want us to adapt and to you adapt and to challenge you to is to look at an understanding that while debt is not evil, it is not healthy. Okay, it's a general rule. Now, we'll talk about some things that, yeah, you may have to borrow to be able to get a house and so forth, but if it's really just because I can't control myself, I have not built up the muscle power to say no, that's an issue. So the Bible tells us in Proverbs 22 and verse 7 that the rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is the servant to the lender. Okay, the borrower is the servant to the lender. In 3 John verse 2, we read, Beloved, I wish above all things that you may prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospereth. Now, this is not prosperity gospel. But I will tell you, though, that if you would do these 7 things, your financial situation, my financial situation will be totally different. I'm not given a caveat to say, okay, if you do this, this will be the result in terms of X amount of dollars. I can't say that. I don't know what that may look like. But I can tell you, though, we'll bring a different level of peace. It'll bring a different level of understanding. It'll bring a different level of joy to you. In 1 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 2, we read that it is required that a man that is a steward be found faithful. So the first process is to save $1,000 in that baby emergency fund. So someone asks, well, how do we do that? What's the process? The process of it is, of course, is maybe you might cut back in certain categories of spending. You might decide, let me try an extra job. You may work a little overtime, maybe a yard sale, whatever the case may be. But the mindset then that we're looking at is, number one, I am not going to stay in this situation. I'm in a situation right now, but this does not define who I am. It's a difference between a chapter in your life and the story of your life. A chapter is simply a season. But you make it a purpose. This might be true today, but you come back and see me, next year, this time it's going to be a different story. And I'm going to start today to change that. You come back in 3 months, it's going to be a different situation because I'm going to start a process today that's going to change it. It's not going to change tomorrow. It's not going to change next week, but I'm going to start a process to implement that. My process is I'm covenanting that I'm not going to borrow anymore. All right, that's the mindset. If you don't have that mindset, you for sure come to the rest of the classes, enjoy, but it's not going to be the same experience. But if you have your mindset of, I'm not going to borrow money, period. Now again, you need to buy a house, buying a house, whatever the case may be. But I'm talking about just normal. Like, you know what? If I don't have it, I'd rather just do it out. And if you have relatives who were alive during the period of the Great Depression or after, their mindset was simply that. They lived by, if I don't have it, I'm going to do it out. We live in our society, credit, of course, is extended to everyone. Like your dog could get a credit card. Anybody, but you have to be able to say no. So you have to change your mindset. Your mindset is, I'm not going to go in debt. I'm not going to go further in debt. I'm not going to borrow. I'm not going to live like this. I've had enough. I want a different way of life. And that will change some of the stress. Sometimes, you stay awake at night because of the stress of having to pay bills, the stress of having to be able to meet this obligation. When those things go away, then that stress level goes down some. Okay, and it's not putting your trust in money. That's not the idea. But the idea is that you know that, okay, I don't have to go and to pay somebody this. And it's a whole different situation when, you get paid at the beginning of the month. Remember, as a child, when we went to the bank, so a couple of times when my mom got paid, she was a teacher, and she got her check. And, when you're a kid, any amount of money is like a lot of money. You know what I'm talking about? It's like when you're a kid, and I don't know about the kids today, but, when I was like 5 years old, if you had like $20, you hit the lotto. $20 a day, that you give a kid $20 a day, they're looking at you like, where's the rest of it? But when we were growing up, like, $20, $10 is like, I mean, if I had, $50, I mean, I was a king. And I remember when she got paid, it was, a decent amount of money. It's like, some thousands of dollars. You look at like, we're like, my brother and I say, hey, we're rich. And, if you're a parent, you're like, boy, you're not rich. This has to go pay for this, right? And then you start seeing it go in. So you see it come in and you see it go out. And we live that. We live that in our lives, that the check comes in. And it's like, okay, I got X amount of money, but it all went back out. So we're going to change the process. And part of that process is, again, starting with the very first thing. So, again, I'm not going to borrow. I'm not going to go further into debt. I'm done with it. Debt has not helped me thus far. I'm going to live by a different plan. So let's look at a couple of pieces. So the first piece that we talked about is we want to build up a budget. How are we going to get this budget? Now, this is all, of course, in the scriptures, the idea. But, again, good common sense is also in the scriptures. So we're going to talk about 6 steps and walk you through them quickly. Number 1, you need to list out your monthly expenses as much as you can. And I'll make available a template or sheet I could email. You can look at it, and certainly it's not set. This is not the 10 Commandments, right? You might look through it and modify it and see some other pieces to add on, but I'll show you a sample one. But to list out your monthly expenditures, okay, I know I have my rent. I know there's tithe and offering. I know that there's utility bill. There's my cell phone bill. There's gas. There's food. There's clothing. The things that every month I have to take care of. These are my monthly expenditures, to be able to identify them. And you might say, well, hey, I don't know what my expenditures are. Well, this is where we'll learn. We're going to learn to be able to get in control of things, to know and understand what's taken care of. Think of it from this day forth. You are the CEO of your own company. You are the financial controller of your company. So if I came to you and said, hey, I want you to be the controller of my finances, you would say, well, what are your expenses? And how much money do you have? And I'll look to, and this is what you're doing now, is, is over you Incorporated. No, okay, this is what I have. These are my expenses. And now, number 2, I'm going to list my available monthly income. What do I have now? Here, this is what I have. These are my expenses. And then this is what I have. And once I have that, okay, what I'm spending versus what I earn, what I receive, then I'm going to subtract it to be able to see. Now, hopefully, there is some type of surplus, that we're in the positive, okay? So if maybe on a monthly basis, I calculate and spend, after accounting up rent, housing, car, credit card, food, et cetera, maybe that comes to $6,500. And then when I look at what I receive and I have in, well, if I'm at $6,000, then instantly red flags ought to go off, right? Because that means I'm running $500 short a month. And if I'm running $500 short a month, that's typical of every month. That means at the end of the year, how much am I short? $6,000. And if I live like that for 5 years, I'm just running the whole how much? $30,000. And if I live like that for another 5 years, how much am I in the hole for? I'm in $60,000. Okay? Now, the average credit card debt, household debt in this country is like over $25,000 per household. And so this is not all the time people going out and just being lavish, a bunch of steak dinners and so forth. Sometimes it's just life. It's, lost a job. Someone is sick. A situation took the stove went out. The car had an incident. So sometimes it could be reckless spending, but sometimes it's just life, things that happen, and I don't necessarily have a plan. And so, as I talked about last week when I got my first credit card, I said I was only going to use it for an emergency. And now you can see if I'm running $500 short every month, or let's just say I'm running $200 short every month. At the end of a year, that's how much? 12 times 2, 24. $2,400. If I do that for 10 years, that's like $25,000. It's, death by 1,000 cuts. The big picture. So part of you being you incorporated is you look at the big picture, but you also look at the small picture. You're going to set this in order. So it's like, okay, you coming into my finances, and my finances are, way out of line. Your job is to get it in line. So you coming into your finances, and you're looking at the situation saying, okay, hey, we're going to put you on a budget. We're going to get this in shape. This is not going to fly. So hopefully there is not a negative. If there's a negative, again, the red flags go off. If there's a surplus, then that's good news then, right? Because now that means I have money to be able to easily put toward this situation. All right, so hopefully we're on the positive side. If we're not and we're in the negative, then of course we still, that's what we have to work with. These are the tools of our trade. This is what reality is, but we're going to pay attention especially to be able to correct that. So that's step 3. We calculate what is our net spendable income. Then number 4, we're going to put that net spendable income into categories. So as an example, maybe I found out my monthly expenditures is $6,500. Now I look at my available monthly income, and maybe I have $8,000 a month coming in. Now I'm taking, and so I know that there's a difference between the $6,500 I'm spending and the $8,000 that I have coming in available. There's a difference there of $1,500. Okay. I place in, what am I going to spend now my money on? How much am I going to use for housing? How much am I going to use for this? How much am I going to use for that? And in it, I create my categories, because your categories may look different from my categories. Your categories, maybe you will, you're planning on vacation. Now, we're not doing this in the baby steps, like the first part. Like, well, we're getting out of debt. Right now, we're just kind of cleaning up a mess, but I'm going to get, just high-level overview. That overall, your monthly budget is going to look different from the next person. Maybe because maybe you have to save for college, they don't. Maybe you're planning on going on a trip, they aren't. Maybe you're trying to buy a car, they aren't. Maybe they're trying to, you understand? It's different. So not everything is the same. But I put those together in budgets. Now, step 5 is I need to track those expenses through the month. One of the best things to be able to do this is the envelope system. And the envelope is really what it sounds like. It's having an envelope and writing on the front of it groceries and putting a certain amount of money in there. And that's $500, $700. It's writing on the front gas, 1,000, or what? Well, gas prices may be $1,000. But putting on the front of it, whatever. Let's put on the front clothes or clothing. Okay, well, how much am I going to allocate for clothing? And I'm learning to be able to build my stamina that I'm going to live off of what's in here. Now, I'm not talking about being unrealistic. So you can't say, I'm going to live off of a $50 food budget for the whole month and just pay off all this debt. All right, it's got to be realistic, because that sounds good, but it's like, the easiest time to go on a fast is right after you eat a good meal. Because you're not thinking straight at that point. You're like, yeah, I'll go on a fast for 10 days or 21 days. Your stomach nice and full. Say, what I was thinking. So we had to be realistic in the process of it, but we're going to track those expenses through the month. So what we started doing was using an envelope system, writing out, this is what it is. And so you go out and you have this money. And, well, when the money is gone, the fun is gone, because you can't do anything more. Because I can't borrow. I'm not trying to go back further in. I'm trying to get out. Now, the bank, they don't mind if you borrow. Does Citibank really care that you only pay $40 a month? Are they going to call you up and say, Mr. So-and-so, we just got your payment, and you just paid us the minimum payment of $40 a month, and you owed us $5,000. We would like to know, can you pay us more? They're like, no, keep it coming. As a matter of fact, we'll send you an offer that will give you a lower interest rate for future purchases if you'd like to go further into debt. So I'm not mad at them. Yeah, it's us, right? I can't be mad at them. And so, you're not the victim. We're the ones who signed up. We got involved. They didn't hold a gun to our head and make us do it. We signed up for the stupid trip, so we get to pay the stupid tax, okay? So we're going to track our expenses. In the first 2 months or so you do this, it's not going to work out. It's not going to be an exact science. You're going to find out that you put maybe too much money over in this category, not enough in this category, because you don't know. And if you were like me, if you're just using a card, you have no idea. And so you want to get away from a credit card, because on average, you spend about 15% more by paying on credit card. They did a study, and they found at McDonald's that the average ticket goes up like, I think, 20% between a person who pays off of credit than a person who pays by cash. So when you're in McDonald's, so the studies have been done, and they find that when you use credit, that you spend more. Because it's different. I'm not paying this. If I pay it back at the end of the month, I'll pay it back whenever. And so the average bill is higher. So instead of paying, normally you might spend, say, $10 at McDonald's, but you got a credit card. It's like, I get the Happy Meal, the number 3 combo, and I'll pay for the person beside me. When I'm paying cash, I only have enough for the small fry. Okay? And the guy beside me, he's on his own. It's a different process versus, cash versus plastic. Okay? And the same is true also even with saying, a debit card. It's not the same, but it's a process of being able to learn and to know. And so banks understand that we generally don't have, the stamina and the muscle, and so they don't mind if we go overdraft. No, they don't mind. You can't balance it. I'll pay them, but I remember paying maybe $50 for this is a long time ago, 2 checks or something like that. I may have been over, could have been like $2. The day when you wrote checks for everything, right? Today you don't do it. Today you have cards, a debit card, so forth. Back then, again, one of those age-old stories for the old folks. But go into the store, they ring you up, and you write the check for $3.30, and you give it to them, and you don't have the $3.30. You only have $2 in the bank, and you're hoping that you can either get to the bank quick enough to put in $1.30 to cover it, or either you didn't know it, and then it's worse feeling is you called a number in, because we didn't have, man, I sound old. We didn't have computers. You didn't have a phone to, hit the app and to see this is what I have. You had to call in the number, put in your account number, and put in the PIN number, and they said, okay, your account balance is so and so, right? And then they came on and said, your account balance is negative, and I'm like, man, I just bounced a check for $2. The $2 candy bar cost me $15 in overdraft charges. But you have to get on it, though, and understand and know. So when using cash, it's like, okay, it's not there. I can't go over. So you track your expenses. Again, it's not going to be an exact science the first couple of months. So give yourself some grace, but you're learning to track the expenses. And you'll be surprised when you start looking at stuff, because you realize, man, I spent, $500 over at Burger Patch. How'd that happen? Loving Hut, $300? No wonder the people know you by your first name. You walk in, you want the, we'll get you, here's your seat, we'll get you what you want. you start to realize what's taking place. It's not going to be easy, but you're beginning to learn the process. Step 6 then is you want to evaluate it. At the end of the month, evaluate it. Come back again. And of course, if you're married, you got to agree with this with your spouse. Okay, you can't go and say, I'm putting you on a budget. That's the same as saying I'm putting you on a diet. They come to dinner and they're looking for the rice and the beans and the veggie fish, and you got a salad sitting there. And they're saying, where's the food? It's like, well, I decided we're going on a budget. We're going on a diet. Well, you might be going on a diet, but I just signed up for this. Give me the. So you can't force somebody into this. It's like, okay, let's talk about this together. This is what we have. These are our bills. These are our debts. But then you also, hey, these are our goals. We want to be able, or at least I feel more secure being able to do this and so forth. And so, share with my wife, we'd go into the store, and she would be, just putting stuff in the cart. And she said, well, I had a problem. And I would be, I'd be upset. I'm like, you're putting this in, because for a woman says, we're going to the store. You mind stopping at the grocery store? We need some milk, and we need some cereal. So a man understands it as, we stop in the grocery store, we need milk, we need cereal. So we go to the milk aisle, here's the soy milk, we go to the cereal aisle, let's go. A woman says, well, hey, there's some tofu over here, there's some brownies over here we need this. And you go in and you're thinking mentally, I'm prepared to spend $7. And 35 minutes later, it's $700. And you don't know what happened, okay? So I'm going through the store, and, everything that goes in is just like the dollar signs going up. It's like, ding, 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 ding. It's like dollar signs going up. Everything is going in, just putting it in. We don't need one of these, need two of these. And it's like, how did it cost so much? And it's all going in. But, she didn't know, because I didn't say, hey, we only have, $200. So, bill's like $400. So I'm not going to get up to the cash register and not pay the, I'm just going to get up there and do, you pull out the card and you hope and pray, right? The last you looked at it, the limit was $200, and you hoping that, they'll give you $100 over, and you put it up there and they swipe it, and you got the little beads of perspiration coming on, and you're hoping that it'll go through, and it goes through, and you say, thank the Lord. And if it doesn't go through, then you're like, try it again. Try it again. It should work. Try it one more time. And they try it, and they're like, it doesn't work. And you're already thinking about the backup plan. Okay, well, when I called Chase, they think they said there's $300 on this one. So here, try this one. Credit surfing. Okay, yeah, been there, done that. I understand it. I know all about it. But it creates, unnecessary stress. It creates unnecessary anxiety. So I'm able to say, well, listen, hey, this is where we are. We have, $300. So when we go in the grocery store, at this point, I don't care what you put in the cart. Because I get to the front, if all we have is $300, it's back to the old days. You remember you go up and they say, okay, your total is, $315. And you start looking through it and say, hey, put this back. And they're like, okay, we'll scan it. And it's like, okay, it's $309. Put that back. And they scan it and it's like $303. Put that back. And the guy behind you is like, here's the $3. Just go ahead and go. But it's a different thing than with cash, okay? Because now you're understanding, it's all I have. And I begin to evaluate it. What am I going to spend? What is a want versus what is a luxury? What is a need? So we got to, we'll put it back in. That also means, and sometimes we'll have to say no. We can't do some things. No, because everybody's not trying to be on the same plan you're on. Everybody's not trying to go to the gym when you're going to the gym. So you're like, hey, I'm going to the gym. Where are you going? Well, I'm going to the donut house. That's two different mentalities that you have. But you have to figure, what do I want? What am I trying to do? And you're like, well, I want to go to the donut house too, but no, you got to go to the gym. What is your goal? What is your objective? What's your mission? What is your passion? And so you may say no when they're saying something else, but you have to evaluate it. You have to adjust it and repeat, like wash, rinse, repeat. The next month, it'll get a little better. Next month, it'll get a little better. The next month is like, okay, you're going in stride. And as you start looking, you start seeing, okay, this is going down. It's going down further. It's going down further. It is going to build up your own excitement. You become, as it were, like your own cheerleader. Now, there are going to be other people. It's not going to be a bed of roses. So I don't want you to think, oh, this is going to be easy. This is not. But you're looking at the long term, okay? And you're starting to get there. And it's again, a laborious process, but it will be well worth it, though. It's like, again, you're going on your exercise program, and, like you're trying to look and you see a six-pack. No, it's not there. Right? But then you're like, okay, well, hey, I was wearing a 38. I'm in a 37. I was in a 42. I'm down to a 41. Went from a 41 to a 39. Again, just gradual progression. Somebody comes up and say, hey, you know what? You look like you working out. You're losing some weight, and you start feeling good. Oh yeah, yeah. It's psychological. It's that mental aspect that is there, but this is taking place on the financial situation. I'll send you this for those who like it. Again, there's some online that you can look at. This is just one, and this is not set in stone, but you want to put things there as you see them. So in short, you're sitting down at the beginning of the month. And of course, we don't wait till next month. I'm not saying that. So ideally, beginning of the month. But in this case right now, okay, I look at from my next paycheck coming in. Most people get paid bi-monthly. My next check is coming in. How are we going to spend that? So that your money has a mission for what it's going to do. It's like dollars coming in like a little army. And your job is to tell these soldiers what is their job. Now, if you don't tell them what to do, they're going to, it's like a kid sometimes. If you tell a kid what to do, they'll do it. But if you don't tell a kid what to do, they're going to do something else. And that's what your money's going to do. It's going to have a party. If you don't tell her what to do, it's having a good time. But you tell her what to do, it's going to do that purpose. So I'll send you this. Again, this is not at all the Ten Commandments and so forth. And again, I do stress that if you're trying to get out of debt, you'll see in here it has areas for vacation. It has areas for eating out and so forth. Now, we'll take that, and us going through, we ate out, we cut back some, but we ate out. Now again, austerity looks different for every person. I would recommend, hey, just button up the bootstraps. We're not eating out. But again, you have to be in agreement there. But you could set whatever it is, or we're not going on vacation, we're not going to do this, we're going to cut this out, cut that out, and so forth. And you start looking through, and some of this you start looking at some because some things just come out of, say, a checking account or credit card maybe going to, and you look at it and it says a cable bill, $150, and you start saying, I don't watch $150 worth of TV to be paying that much money. Okay, and I'm having a conversation to be able to make adjustments, and so you can certainly reach out to these folks, talk to them. Many of them will, if you tell them I'm ready to counsel, they'll put you over to a retention center or retention specialist. So you can just say, hey, I'm ready to go. I need to cut this bill. Now you can't, you're not going to get a half price, whatever it is, but you want to talk to them and say, I've been a customer for X amount of time. I need a lower payment or lower bill for this. I'm not talking about credit. I'm talking about like a monthly expenditure or whatever. What will they do if they don't want to play ball and you're ready to move? Throw it out there. They'll say, well, I can't do anything, but let me put you on to a retention specialist, and you can talk to them. And they may come on and say, well, all right, here's what we'll do. Luke 14, 28 through 30 says this. It says, for which of you intending to build a tower sitteth not down first and counteth the cost, whether he have sufficient to finish it? Lest haply, after he have laid the foundation and is not able to finish it, all that behold it begin to mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. Of all the lessons there, one of them we talk about is you need to look at your budget and know, hey, what can I afford versus what can I not afford? We've used up the time, and I have not gone into this emergency fund. So, and it's important to go into, so I'm not going to go into it. I'm going to just stop here and try to truncate some things next time because I don't want to push too much into one setting, and we certainly will not be able to finish that. I will send that for those who like the budget, the sample budget. Again, the different ones you can find online. But the whole idea, the basic idea, again, quickly recapping, is that you are changing your mindset and saying, I'm not living like this anymore. I'm not going to live paycheck to paycheck. Last I looked at, and the numbers could be changed, I think it was like 60, 70% of Americans said, or live paycheck to paycheck, meaning if I don't get paid next month, I'm up a creek. That's what paycheck to paycheck is. Doesn't mean you can't pay bills. It just means if something happens, I'm in trouble. The other one is that an emergency of $400, I wouldn't have a way of being able to take care of it. The objective of what we're talking about is to be able to use basic biblical principles and some ideas of common sense to put together a plan to know that I'm not going to live like this. I'm going to change it by the grace of God. And this is how I'm going to change it. So the tools that you're leaving with today is building a budget, establishing a budget, and sticking by the budget. It's like, okay, this is it. And we're going to live by this. This is our cash that we're going to use, and the objective being able to, we're going to pay off these bills. Our objective is we're going to use the debt snowball, listing the debts from the largest to the smallest in terms of quantity owed. Forget about the interest rate. It is strictly who do I owe and what's the smallest amount. I will say this, if there is a situation that you owe a company and it's gone to collections, or it's 5 years old or whatever, don't even deal with that one now. Let sleeping dogs lie. Okay, I'm talking about, deal with the live ones. The first objective then, of course, even in going to this, is to be current. So if I'm in a situation where I'm behind a month on my light bill, okay, that's priority. Then to get that caught up first. If I'm behind on my rent, my housing, my mortgage, or a car payment, need to get that caught up first. We can talk about some specifics if you want to talk specifically, but the general idea is, I need to at least get current and then follow through, okay? I don't want you saying, okay, I'm paying off a credit card and my light's out at the house. That one thing I learned from my dad, he said, JCPenney has their money. We're going to make sure the lights are on. Okay? So we may not have had a lot, but what his point is that, okay, at dinner time, Mr. JCPenney, he's eating. We're going to make sure we have food on the table. Okay? So you need to take care of the four walls, your housing, your utilities, your transportation, and such. And then we're going to look at the other pieces. So again, be current on this, and then begin the process. If there are debts that are, collections where the bill collector's already been calling, well, let me make sure the other stuff is caught up first, and then we'll put the bill collector in. He's going into the line of, again, smallest to largest, but I want to make sure everything is current. We don't want, we want our lights on, we want our heat on, all those types of things. So that's the basic formula that is there, and we'll build off of that. So we're going to stop here, and next week we'll pick up, somehow go to 3 and 4, hopefully 5. But we'll figure it out. But if we would pray together, and we are adjourning. Father in heaven, we thank you for the time being together again today. I pray that you would please help us as we seek to, for those who want to live a different way. You've come to give us a different life, a new life in Jesus Christ. We've received that, and we pray for his blessing to be able to make some of these changes that we've talked about today. Give us the courage to be able to do so, the wisdom as well. Help us to know that it will not be an easy process, but if we will seek to do so, that you will put you will put your angels to work in our behalf. You will crown our efforts with success, and we thank you for that in advance. In Jesus' name, amen.